Hello, my name is Mark Ward and I'm delighted to welcome you to the Red Line Poetry Competition and TU Dublin Short Story Competition Awards. The Red Line Book Festival is brought to you by South Dublin Libraries and Arts, and we have events running until Sunday, so be sure to check out the full programme at redlinebookfestival.ie. In a little while we'll hand over to the wonderful Niamh Walker-Hedden from TU Dublin for the short story part of this evening, but before that it's my great honour to introduce the Red Line Poetry Competition Awards. We had over 300 entries for this year's competition, so major congratulations are in order to the 9 shortlisted poets that you'll be hearing from shortly. A huge thank you to our esteemed judge this year, Peter Sir, who will join us to announce the winners following the readings. Thanks also to Liz Curry, Helen McMahon and Paula Murphy for all their work behind the scenes to make this year's competition possible. I'll pass you over now to A.M. Cousins for the first of this evening's readings. Thank you.
My name is Anne Cousins, and this is Mac. The nights she went out and didn't come back, Fridays and Saturdays downtown, disco nights. I'd wake in the dark hours, put on my Mac. The long green one, she said, looked like a sack and would give the dogs in the street a fright, which never bothered me. But if she didn't come back from the edge of disaster, that hungry black abyss that lay in wait for our daughter might have eaten her up. So I got out of bed and put on my Mac over my nightdress and slipped out the back. Drove around town in the middle of the night because I'd have died if she hadn't come back. Little girls staggered past, addled and racked by vodka and shots. Boys coked up, ready for a fight. As I waited in the car, guardian angel in a Mac, to drive her and her friends to Burger Mac, or Abracababra, whatever it took to finish the night. That was what I did, and that's how I got her back, driving around in my nightdress and the long green Mac.
Good evening. First, my heartfelt thanks to the Red Line team for their work in putting together this event and also the festival as a whole in such difficult times. A word about my poem. In 2018, in the Royal College of Music, Maxim Vengerov gave an orchestral masterclass on Beethoven's violin concerto. Maria Gillisell was the student chosen to play the violin solo for the second movement of the concerto, the Larghetto movement. In preparing her to play, Vengerov said to her, "This movement is like nirvana, really, like heavenly music, and everything needs to flow without any boundaries." The poem I'm going to read is about the music that Vengerov and Gillisell made together. Larghetto. Flow without any boundaries, he says. So she is to be an illusionist in her counterpoint, with the clarinets to be a clarinet, with the bassoons a bassoon. Yes, she nods. She is honed for this. She is avid. His violin aside now, he conducts 1, 2, and the orchestra unfurls the theme, delicate, leisurely, a conjuring of summer's first awakening into plenitude. Between hillsides it might be, a bird flight over the river curving through grove and village to the town of spires and belfries touched by eastern light. She raises her violin and joins, her counterpoint a feather drift, ascent and fall. Again, further she soars to crest a languid moment stilled aloft, before she dips and eddies aside, down. She is breath, she is air at play, allurement to those who step unlatched from doorways, rumour of melt for souls too cold to grieve. Lift to the fledged whose hope dares higher than rooftops to chance the sky flows streaming heaven knows where. She rests. The orchestra fleshes its summer theme, rounds it to bounty, then ghosts it almost to silence. He turns to her, conducting all for her. And the whole world is coming for you, he says. Solo she flickers, a cadenza arching, attenuating to the nothing where new begins. Her theme, air that is spirit singing its tender reckoning in the sanctuary of the ear. The world is for you, he murmurs. It stops, time stops. So much foregone, so much longed for that may yet open out of the abyss. The world is yours, he says, and she is gossamer songline floating out of time and free. Until pulse, he urges, and she bows it while the strings around her pluck it, and now the summer theme is hers to lead. She plays flutter wings, visiting a world in flower, plays spiral of tendril, light print of leaf on leaf, sweeps wide over woodland and sunslopes of pasture, draws up to the falcon wheeling on a thermal, high under the rock-grey sky shore of storm cloud, where summer is plumage coming undone, drifting, and her maestro conductor growls the orchestra to thunder, and she is Icarus plunging to movement's end.
Snapshot. There's a photo on his laptop. It's his screensaver. He's studying it. It's a group of young men, there must be a dozen of them, posing for the camera. Some sitting on an old wooden bench, others grouped casually around. They're outdoors. Gum trees dapple shade the space. Shoes polished, brushed if they're suede, shirts crisply pressed, hair long and neatly combed, moustaches and beards groomed to within an inch of their lives and looking lovely. They're old friends, know each other well, easy in each other's company, were at school together, shared a rambling old inner city house while at uni before going their separate ways, forging their life paths. They've come together for this wedding day, just as they come together for any event worth celebrating in each other's lives. The groom sits in the middle of the bench. A diplomat, he's already served his country in junior postings around the world. And he's there too, almost in the middle, next to the groom, the best man. He sits taller than the others, good-looking, confident in an unassuming sort of a way, happy in his skin, sure of himself, of his position in this tribe. It's hard to recognize him 50 years on. What is he thinking as he looks at this reminder of times past? The tall young man with sun-bleached hair has morphed inside his shell, transmuted by those undersea encounters that occluded oxygen, that severed links inside his brain. He didn't see them coming. Those insidious, seismic changes that turned his world inside out, upside down, didn't recognize them when they hit him full on. Can't work out how he's lost those friends, lost the self he remembers, lost his life.
Living water. It was about noon when a Samaritan woman came to draw water. 1. The grey stone lip of Jacob's well, hewn of solid rock, gleams a high gloss from millennia of use. A perfect O drops deep into the ground. Diabuna turns the handle of the small winch, lowers a pail. We wait. Twisting the handle anti-clockwise, he slowly raises the brimming bucket. We sip the coolness of the earth from our cupped hands. As he sprinkles us with the aspergillum, I am putting parables back together in my mind. 2. And so it came to pass that a young Bedouin girl, shyly, in blue summer dress and faded pink tracksuit bottoms, approaches another well. Her younger brothers, skittish as the young kids, play at the edges of the family's herd of goats. Today the well is covered, out of bounds. The trough is empty. Soldiers stand beside 2 army jeeps and shout out in a tongue she doesn't know, but she knows enough. She calls to her brothers. Together they turn the goats, unwatered, and begin the long walk back to the village.
Numbers, April 1833. They were caught on Cuckoo Lane, about 70 feet from the yard on Little Britain Street, behind Montgomery's public house, where they found the 3 ducks and a hen. A bounty, enough to keep their bellies full for 3 weeks nearly. They thought the noise from the pub would drown it out, would kill the squawks, the cackles, the honks of the fowl, caught by their necks, wings flailing, stuffed into 2 sacks, a sack for each brother. But they were chased by men looking for their next pint of stout, by women holding on to their skirts. They ran them down, spittle flying from their roaring mouths, veins popping in their necks. They grabbed the brothers' stinking rags, their torn coats. They clawed, pulled, punched, and tore the sacks of shrieking fowl from the brothers' grip, and pinned them down and held them for the constables. 3 weeks confined and 3 times whipped, each time with 20 lashes. Skin torn, skin burning, skin spurting blood, and then the pain, all day, all night, for days until it went. And then it started again, 3 times. Michael Riley, aged 12, 3 weeks confined, and 3 times whipped, each time with 20 lashes. And his brother Patrick, aged 13, ditto, ditto, ditto. Things. I am a collector of things, this and that, bits and bobs, odds and ends. Things bright and sparkling, waiting for the light to show their brilliance. Things long and sharp that lurk beneath the nests of tangled string. Things used and useless, things useful still. I am their cradle, their hiding place. Things lost and found, then lost again. Faded negatives of forgotten images, holding on to their secrets. Keys from doors, bikes, boxes, unwritten diaries, all lie in wait, hoping for the perfect fit. And painted beads scattered from broken string across tiled floors. Sure of their value, some claim attention each time I'm opened. Some, long forgotten, linger like regret in darkened corners. Things wanted once, still craving old patterns.
The pulp of sugar wisdom. College ended with the good strain, shunting heavy into earshot, then view, dropping beat and inking your work as it slowly ploughed the line. You skinned your pants down the embankment, I pressed the tip of blackthorn. Love me, ouch, love me not. I caught your breathlessness, the touch of oily, smoke-tinted fingers, anointed each tack, hammered flush against the railway sweeper. Our initials in a tin man's heart.
Colin in slow motion. Comeback day, we conjure Colin's return. Picture him stop-starting into class. Coordination shot. The circuit between brain and response hijacked. Escaped sheep standfasting a lane. Told to think of him as the new kid. We daydream of half-speed ghost trains. Popped coloured bulbs. The size of his heart, swollen to a space hopper. A failed experiment. Colin the android boy's batteries won't charge. Mr. Morton reaches Colin Henderson before realising. Stammers Anthony Higgins instead, too late. His name cannot be unsaid. Each tick of the wall clock, Colin, giving pulse to our impatience. An empty hardback chair pushed in tight, we colour in his absence, denouncing the space in 24 differing images, recalling features in copybooks like pencil sketches of the missing. The corners of Colin's mouth curl as if tugged on strings, incisors crowd the gums. His right eye won't stop drooping. Unable to correct the curve of his spine, I scribble him over, start again. Desperate to spot him first, we keep tabs on the classroom door for his handprint smear, the dissolving ghost of his breath on cross-hatched panes. His replacement shadow skewing the light. A testing rattle, as if someone's got the wrong class. The register's abandoned at the S's. The door inches inward. The air changes, as though we're propelled headlong into a tunnel. Colin's desk adrift in a hinterland of faces.
Without his father. Peel the years back to find a gauche teenager silenced when he hits the wall of death, determined not to cry but crying, unable in the weeks that follow not to wallow in the awfulness because absence screams in every cell of his loneliness. And there's nobody to tell him he's okay or that this cup will pass, nobody apart from his mother, for God's sake, to tell him he is loved. Lay them back in order, these years, thin as silicone, but calloused by all that happened before and since that night, when life stopped for a moment, then went on without his father. Put away your phone. Put away your phone. Hold my hand. Trees are swaying in the wild wind, and every leaf is part of the roar that fills our ears on this park bench, that tosses your hair on this park bench. Love, we are here together in a high wind. This is real. More real than the weather on your phone. Hold my hand. Put away your phone. Kiss me. Put away your phone. What matters are the seaweed colours and the stones and the sound of the waves. See, hear, feel the wind when the sea is rough. Taste salt on your lips. Kiss me. Taste salt on my lips. Put away your phone. This is now, here. Phone is elsewhere, otherwhere, other when, other place. Child is here now. Put away your phone. Connect. Touch. Be touched. Put away your phone.
Survivor. His school bag came home from the hospital morgue, an artifact from the wreckage. She put it in the pantry, as if for preservation, his fingerprints in cold storage. She would touch it briefly before measuring, sifting flour, weep over it while counting eggs. Inside, innocent copybooks. Lucky homework, escaped unmarked. The New World Atlas, lost, unexplored. His bag of marbles and other treasures, sweets she'd slipped in as a surprise. Chocolate caramel burial hoard. It sat perplexed on a shelf, an incongruous reality overwhelming her with evidence. Poor, inconsolable satchel. She found it guilty of survival. Of course, life went on regardless.
Hello, I'm Peter Sir, and I was the judge of this year's Red Line Poetry Competition. So thanks are due, I suppose, first of all, to the Red Line Festival for organising it, and to all the brave souls who entered it. It is nice to win a competition, but I often think that for poets, and indeed for all writers, the real competition can be with yourself, to write in the first place, to write a better poem than you wrote yesterday maybe, or last week, or last year, kind of to somehow better yourself, or challenge yourself, outdo yourself, surprise yourself. I mean, that's always the task, that's always the challenge, I think. That's always the excitement of writing as well. I think all the poems here have some kind of excitement about them. They've got some of the elements of surprise or truth. They've got a command of language and image and form that conspire together to make something moving and that make you want to read them again. So I think well done to all of the people on the shortlist. So I'm going to start actually with the highly commended poets. Just to say that all of the poets in this category, I think, can be proud of what they've achieved. And I'm just going to give them in no particular order. So Colin in Slow Motion by John Paul Davies deals admirably with its theme of loss, as it imaginatively evokes a child who won't be returning to his school, with lots of good touches. Mr. Morton reaches Colin Henderson before realising, stammering Anthony Higgins instead. Too late. His name cannot be unsaid. Without His Father by Michael O'Connor movingly remembers the effect of the loss of his father on a teenage boy. Peel the years back to find a gauche teenager silenced when he hits the wall of death. It's difficult subjects presented with a kind of tight intensity that adds a lot to its effectiveness as a poem. And Put Away Your Phone, also by Michael O'Connor, deals with that all too familiar subject of digital distractions and conjures an urgent love poem that foregrounds the importance of immediacy and physicality with wit, I think, and elegance. Put away your phone, hold my hand, connect, touch, be touched, put away your phone. So that's very good advice from Michael O'Connor. Snapshot by Angela Washington deals vividly and convincingly with the difference between a photograph full of energy and promise and the sad contemporary reality of age and the seismic changes that turn the world inside out. What is he thinking as he looks at this reminder of times past? The tall young man with sun-bleached hair has morphed inside his shell. The Pulp of Sugar Wisdom by James Anthony is a taut and intriguing poem I found full of deft touches in its memorializing of its intimate physical moment. I caught your breathlessness, the touch of oily, smoke-tainted fingers anointed each tack hammered flush against the railway sleeper. Numbers by Fionnuala Waldron delves into the brutality of the past and its treatment of two young children imprisoned and whipped for a minor theft in the 19th century. The poet was content to let the sparsely presented facts speak eloquently for themselves. Michael Riley, aged 12, 3 weeks confined and 3 times whipped, each time with 20 lashes, and his brother Patrick, age 13, ditto, ditto, ditto. Things, also by Finola Waldron, nicely evokes a collector of things and uses the conceit to explore a world of lost and hidden objects at the edge of existence. I'm a collector of things, this and that, bits and bobs, odds and ends. Larghetto by Andrea Ward is a complex and rich portrayal of the world of music and a musician, and it moves like a kind of stately piece of verbal music itself. She raises her violin and joins her counterpoint of felladrift, ascent and fall. So well done again to those on that shortlist and those highly recommended poets and poems. So we come now to the three placed poems. And in third place, Living Water by Bernie Crawford paints an almost biblical picture of a liturgical event and presents its two scenes with, again, a fresh kind of vividness that brings the reader right into its moment as the bucket is raised from the well and the holy water sprinkled. And as a young girl approaches a now closed second well. So peace and war kind of jostle each other in these lines to great effect. The Abuna turns the handle of the small winch, lowers a pail, we wait, twisting the handle anti-clockwise. He slowly raises the brimming bucket, we sip the coolness of the earth from our cupped hands. In second place, Mac by A.M. Cousins deals humorously but convincingly also with the subject of kind of parental anxiety, putting its repeated rhymes also to good effect. And the effect is to heighten the realism of the ritual while adding to the drama of the rescue missions in the long green Mac. Whatever it took to finish the night, that's what I did, and that's how I got her back, driving round in my nightdress on the long green Mac. Many of the poems in this competition dealt with grief in relation to COVID-19 or the loss of loved ones. Some of the most striking for me confronted the death of a young child. And this year's winner, Survivor by Monica de Wallisch, delicately and meticulously evokes the loss of a child through its focus on the school bag preserved in the pantry. The poem deals again with its difficult subject with great tact, and it lets the objects, the school bag, the copybooks, the homework, the bag of marbles, as well as the domestic work in the kitchen that goes on within sight of the school bag, that carries the weight of the emotion. She would touch it briefly before measuring, sifting flour, weep over it while counting eggs. Inside, innocent copybooks, lucky homework, escaped, unmarked, the New World Atlas, lost, unexplored. So it's a fine, convincing performance and a deserving winner of this year's competition. So well done to Monica de Wallisch, and indeed well done to everybody on this shortlist. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, and congratulations to all the winners and shortlisted poets. My name is Niamh Walker-Hayden, and I am delighted to welcome you to the TU Dublin International Short Story Awards. This year, we had a staggering 575 entries for the competition, with submissions received from writers across 54 countries. Needless to say, the standard was incredibly high, and our judge, Rob Doyle, has been faced with some very difficult decisions. Before I hand you over to Rob to introduce the shortlisted writers and announce the winners, I would like to say thank you to my colleagues at TU Dublin. Gerard Connolly, who goes above and beyond the call of duty for this competition, Gillian Kearns for encouraging the competition, Tom Stone, our principal, for his support and funding, and to the rest of the library staff for the amazing work they do behind the scenes to make the competition and awards happen. Additionally, I would like to thank Mark Ward and Redline for coordinating with us over the past few years on the competition. I have been involved with the competition from its inception, having written the original proposal. I am blown away every year by the level of entries and the quality of the writing. It has been fabulous to see it grow to 575 entries, and I am astounded by the boundless energy of short story writers. I hope that even though this will be my last year with the competition, that it continues to flourish and grow. Finally, I would like to say huge congratulations to everybody who entered the competition for getting your entries in and having the creative flair to be able to do that, and to wish all our shortlisted writers the very best of luck this evening. Thank you very much. Over to you, Rob.
Hello and welcome to the 2020 Red Line Book Festival Short Story Competition prize announcement. I'm Rob Doyle. I'm the author of 3 books, most recently Threshold, which was published earlier this year by Bloomsbury, and also the author of one collection of short stories called This is the Ritual. So I have chosen with great difficulty my favorite 3 stories, first, second and third place, from the shortlist of 10. And I have to say the standard of these works of short fiction really was delightfully high. I've spent a couple of days reading and rereading them, and there's remarkable originality, inventiveness, variance, diversity in there, all manner of ideas coming at me, and emotions and visions. So before I announce the winners of the competition, I'm going to just introduce and read a very short extract from each of the stories in turn on the short list. Just a few sentences from each. So, by the way, this short story competition is supported by TU Dublin. Okay, so the first shortlisted author is Shelley Hastings, and her story is called An A to Z of What Julie Taylor Was Made Of, 1981 to 1992. Aniseed balls. Gift, bribe from Becky, her dad's girlfriend. Smooth marble sound as they roll together. Sucks off the red. Holds white ball in gap between teeth. Final crunch, left with tiny black seed. Shocked. It could be poison. She might be 8, but she's no idiot. Wipes off tongue and onto school tights. The next on the shortlist is Juliana Roth, who wrote a story titled Exit Interviews. Was there an incident that made you want to leave the centre? I felt that others were in competition with me here, that the space is not as pure as you sold it to be on the website. Were you in competition with others? With myself? And yourself is an other. Sometimes it feels that way, like there's a version of myself I'm trying to return to, or find, or become. That is the goal of the centre. It's why I joined. Okay, the next entry on the shortlist is by Richard Houghton, and it's titled The Fire-Breathing Dragon of Salford. There's a fire-breathing dragon roaming block of flats where I live in Salford. Swear down, its footprints are clear. Blackened floors and scorched ceilings where flames swept fierce and dark edges of ragged wallpaper left looking like a chewed up blackjack suite. Everyone's talking about it, all proper scared. I'm not. I reckon it's red and yellow and orange flames brighten up this colourless city of grey skies and concrete, and their glowing heat warms cold corridors. The next one on the list is by John Duffy, and it's called Catastrophobe. This one is going to be slightly tricky to read for reasons you'll see. The universality utilized expression indeed this 21st of centuries as numbied by the sapioids was I. The mimation, a 6D hologrammy, centralist placid, explicited so. Or me, which according to scholars and as suchy, and followed as suchy, is believed unaimishly to repretell the inherent predispository of the species towarding the self. Communal glitching from the centrics gathered denoted a generalish commonality of agreebus. Next up on the shortlist is the author Patrick Martin, and the story is titled A Crocodile in Real Life. For some time now, I have felt that I must destroy something. I had hoped that it would not need to be an animate thing, but that is not really my decision to make. It only matters that the destruction be undeserved, it seems. It only matters that it should be capricious. I am cutting up a pomegranate to make juice for my son David. He is 4 and stays with me every second weekend. Did you know that the pomegranate is supposed to be one of those superfoods, David? It has loads of antioxidants. David is playing a game of Mario Kart on my smartphone as I speak. So next up is Maeve Henry, and the name of Maeve's story is Lesson Planning. A small room, a wooden table and an electric fan. Lottie opens her laptop, opens a new document. She will not be distracted by the traffic noises from the hot street, nor the traffic noises on Facebook. Target structure. Contrast past simple and present perfect. Examples. Mom and Dad drove me from Cambridge to the airport. I have been at the language school in Barcelona for 7 weeks. I was ill when I was younger, but I have recovered. Is the past simple and the present perfect? No and no. The next story is by Louise Farr, and it's called The Longest Night. It happened on the shortest day of the year and the longest night. It was the winter solstice, or on Greenstad, said Bernie, when the old sun died and the lost souls of the dead came out of the dark. She told me about the wandering stranger who haunted the open road, and the banshee whose weeping would break your heart. I knew that something was going to happen, but I didn't tell anyone, because the last thing I needed was another assessment. The next story is by Ruth Powell, and it is called looking for dinosaur eggs. Last summer, when my mother was dying, I flew back from Dublin to Wales as often as I could. Many things surprised me about that stretch of time, particularly how dull and boring so many of our family conversations were as we waited for her to die. Films and literature had led me to believe there would be an abundance of profound, pre-death, bedside discussions full of poignant, inspirational realizations. That didn't happen, at least not for us. Mostly, we talked about my flights, the traffic, the weather, the council's new bin collection system, and how lovely it was to see the lighter evenings. The next story is by Kerry Ann Spears, and it's called The Infinite Universes of Maggie Lavery. Galaxies drew breath so Maggie Lavery could tread paths she feared to take. Alternate versions of her reality were laid out, one on top of the other, like layers of skin. She often wondered if there were others like her, able to split themselves, particle by particle, and enter a doorway to a different dimension. Lost in the infinite universes of her life, Maggie didn't catch the radiographer's joke. It was about her expanding waistline and, given the room she was in, she mustered a smile. The final entry on the shortlist is by Lee Nash, and the title of her story is City Dwellers. Water is scarce. Nevertheless, our tanks are cleaned and refilled regularly and are roomy enough. As far as prison quarters go, they're quite comfortable. We know you have need of us. You can see goodwill in our faces, just as in the gentle physiognomy of beluga whales or orangutans. You recognize a kind and benevolent benefactor. We know that in the past you felt superior to us invertebrates, these spineless, unarmed, high-protein dolphin snacks. We are somewhat enamored of the fact that you find us useful. Perhaps we have earned your respect. So, those were the 10 author names and story names from the shortlist. And I think it's probably difficult to get a sense just from those short readings of how strange and unique and original and startling and surprising some of these stories were. I hope you got at least a taste of it. There were hundreds of entries, I'm told, so major congratulations to everyone who got on this shortlist. Now we're going to announce the top three. By the way, I judged these stories anonymously, so I had no idea whose stories I was reading. So we'll begin with third place. Goes to Richard Houghton for The Fire-Breathing Dragon of Salford. This one, I'm not going to give away the ending, but it had a superb ending, and the whole story had a kind of, it was all written in this Salford dialect, which I didn't even attempt to imitate as I read it there, because I would have made a fool of myself. But it had an atmosphere of kind of malevolence and energy and drama to it that was captivating. So, third place, The Fire-Breathing Dragon of Salford. Well done. Second place, A Crocodile in Real Life by Patrick Martin. This one got under my skin somehow. Again, it was quite ominous. It had the story itself was kind of sinister, but also mysterious. So even on rereading, I realized it kind of asked a lot of questions that were suggested out without being fully answered. And I thought that was very skillfully done. So second place, again, is A Crocodile in Real Life. Well done to Patrick. First place, the winner of the 2020 Red Line Book Festival Short Story Prize, supported by TU Dublin, goes to Lee Nash for her story City Dwellers. This one captivated me, really did, because may or may not have been possible to discern this from listening to the extract, but the first half of the story is narrated by a cuttlefish, a kind of telepathic cuttlefish in some sort of climate change ravaged future, where scientists and cephalopods, is that the word, have kind of come into league together. And so it was just a story that had real imaginative vision, great ideas. You know, it had a kind of ambitious, there was so much going on, a whole kind of world was suggested in the space of a few pages. And it had the kind of apocalyptic vibe that a few of these entries seem to have. My full congratulations to Lee Nash for City Dwellers, which is the prize, the number one prize for the competition. But again, congratulations to everybody who was shortlisted. Commiserations to those who didn't get in the top 3 places. As I said, it was difficult to decide, and I mean that. And thank you to everyone who's watching and who took part in the competition. Wish you all the best luck next time around. So I'll leave it there. Goodbye.